Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. And as you can see here, Kyle Kuzma is on the final year of his deal, at least for the guaranteed portion. Now, he does have a player option for next season at $13 million, but I would be completely shocked if he were to take that. He's 27 years old. He's right in the heart of his prime, and he's having a very productive season as well, scoring above 20 points a game right now. He's been doing a lot of really good things for the Washington Wizards, who do have some pretty solid players. They're just not winning games right now. So I think the Wizards do need to explore trading him, because more than likely Kyle Kuzma will entertain offers in free agency. And when it comes down to the nitty gritty and choosing where he wants to play, I think Washington is going to get left on the back burner as a future destination for Kyle Kuzma. If you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We have a bunch of NBA trade guides up on the channel, even including one talking about the Washington Wizards. Of course, this video is going to be more focused on specific trades centered around Kyle Kuzma. So let's get into the first one here now, and it's a trade between the Washington Wizards and the Los Angeles Lakers, in which Kyle Kuzma would return to LA. And this is one of those deals that I think if the Lakers were to move one of those future firsts, this is kind of the player they'd want to do it for. Obviously, funny enough, they attached a pick with Kyle Kuzma to get Russell Westbrook. Obviously, that seems like a mistake to them at this point. So they'd like to bring Kuzma back. I think he'd solve some of their issues. I think they need a little bit more size at the forward spot, someone who can rebound the basketball, and someone else who can just put the ball in the hole. Sometimes you need guys who can just go out and get a bucket, and Kyle Kuzma has really turned into that in his tenure in Washington. And I think playing back under the bright lights at Staples Center, Crypto.com Arena, would be really good for his career. Again, I think he'd have a lot of interest in re-signing, which you have to consider that into his value here. Yes, he's scoring 20 plus points a game. I see it difficult to trade him away and expect to get 2 first-round picks back, just given the fact that he is on a short-term deal. It's very possible he could walk out the door. And for the Washington Wizards here, all the players I have them getting back, we could either see them get attached in a 3-team deal, or if it's a young player, they would like to keep him. In this deal here, obviously, Patrick Beverley would likely get rerouted somewhere for maybe a 2nd-round pick. That's what the Wizards would be hoping to net from him in a deal, potentially traded back to Minnesota, for example. Then we look at the other aspects of this trade here. The Lakers clearly get better. They get Kyle Kuzma. They get someone who fills some significant needs for them. The Wizards would trade Patrick Beverley away to another team. But the sweeteners here are that 2027 first-round pick, which I think a lot of people are really underrating the value of that selection. You're looking 4 or 5 drafts from now, and that's a long ways out. It is. You got the 2023 draft, 2024 draft, 2025 draft, 2026 draft, and then the 5th one's that 2027 draft. So you're looking at right now kids who are freshmen in high school. That's really the players you're considering using that pick on. Now you might say, well, why would they want to do that? They have to wait forever for that pick. This is good GM practice. If you can go out and get this selection, I'm telling you, the Lakers 5 years from now are very likely not going to be a good team. LeBron James is already 38 years old. How good is he going to be when he's 43? Anthony Davis has been made of glass since the day he was 25. He's going to be into his mid-30s at this point. There's no way that Anthony Davis is going to suit up for 70-plus games in a regular season. I just don't believe it. And if we've seen anything, Rob Pelinka, who just got an extension, doesn't know how to build a team. So having that pick is going to be very valuable. You also get 2 second-round picks as sweetener in this deal, both of them this year. So it gives you some trade flexibility this season as well. But that 2027 first is really the asset that I think has a lot of value. If I was an NBA team right now, and I wasn't a team that I know I'm going to make a run in the playoffs, I would trade a good player or 2 for those first round picks from the Los Angeles Lakers, especially if I had any confidence in my job security. Now for Tommy Shepard, I'm not exactly sure what that looks like there in Washington, what his job security is, but I think holding on to Kuzma and not making any move would be even worse for his long-term job security than trying to move him off, get some assets, and kind of reset the tables here in Washington. That Johnny Davis pick has been looking pretty questionable this year, so hopefully with their future first, they can do a better job finding guys who are going to be impact players in the NBA. I'm still pulling for Johnny Davis. I hope he turns it around, but he has not looked good thus far. Then our next team here, we're staying in California with the Sacramento Kings. And for the Kings, it's hard to find a trade here as well. The reason for that, This team right now only has 1 or 2 tradable firsts, and it's 2028 and 2029. Because of their trade for Kevin Huerter, who has been very good for them this season. He's been a perfect fit with Domantas Sabonis, so a lot of credit to Monte McNair for finding a good fit between two different players that he did not have on his roster to start training camp last season. Obviously, they have something cooking there. They've been playing very well this season, so credit to the Kings. But this is part of why I didn't like the trade. They gave up so many backup protections in that deal that it's almost impossible for them to make another trade right now. Here, to get the money to work, you have to attach Richaun Holmes, who's on not a good contract. He's averaging about 3.5 points a game this year, and he's not been a good player for the Sacramento Kings. They basically have, for the most part, cut him from their rotation in terms of actual key minutes. So Richaun Holmes is kind of just a minutes filler at this point. The Wizards are already paying Daniel Gafford a very similar contract. I find it hard to stomach 2 contracts like this, so you might need to find a team that actually has some interest in Richaun Holmes, which I think is very unlikely. But then you're also having to sweeten the deal here with 4 second-round picks and that first rounder, because Holmes' contract is, in my opinion, that bad that you can't just, try and walk away from this deal, be happy about this. 2028 first, it's an extra year out, so it's 6 drafts from now. You got 4 second-round picks, trying to sweeten that as well for Kyle Kuzma. For the Wizards, still, you have to remember, if these are the types of offers you're getting for Kuzma, if you don't take one of these, you risk him leaving for nothing. And with where the Wizards are right now in the Eastern Conference, even with Kristaps Porzingis playing very well this season, with Kuzma playing well, and Beal, when he's been healthy, he's been playing well, in my opinion, too. I think you run the risk here of saying, oh, well, if we don't trade him, we have nothing, and we're not even that good of a team right now anyway. I think that they should be motivated to trade Kyle Kuzma. I think it's best for their long-term team building. But, Tommy Shepard sometimes surprises people. There's times he's made decisions that I never understood. Now he's made some good moves. He's made some bad moves. So I'm not exactly sure if he's going to aggressively pursue a Kyle Kuzma trade. In my opinion, he really needs to at least strongly consider one. And if he can get something like this back, it maybe doesn't feel great in the moment, but you never really know where that 2028 first ends up. And a pick that far from now, if you're able to net that, and who knows, maybe it becomes a top 5, top 7 pick. It's possible that, 6 drafts from now, the Kings lose Domantas Sabonis and they lose De'Aaron Fox, and maybe that team's just not good again. So you never really know, but the Wizards here are a team that I think need to explore trading Kuzma. I think the Kings could be a good landing spot, especially with Harrison Barnes being an expiring contract this year. They get younger with Kuzma and someone who's in his prime that they'd like to extend. The next trade here now is a win-now move for this season, and it's one that the Cavaliers would make with the risk of not being able to keep Kyle Kuzma. It still makes sense from this perspective. The Cavaliers right now do not have a tradable first-round pick, which makes this very unlikely to get done. I think the Wizards trading Kuzma would want at least 1 first. The asset in this deal that's supposed to represent that first-round pick is Isaac Okoro, former top 7 overall pick. Was 1 pick right before Killian Hayes in the 2020 NBA draft, and he just hasn't lived up to expectations up to this point. He's really struggled as a shooter. That was the knock on him coming in out of Auburn, and up to this point, it's been pretty debilitating. I think in Washington, maybe there's a chance that they give him some minutes, give him some time on the floor, and see what they can develop with his offensive game. I think there's ways for wings to be effective in this league while being non-shooters. I don't think that's necessarily the problem. The issue right now is he's been in Cleveland, and they've got 2 big guys who are taking up a lot of the paint space, and neither of them step out to the three-point line as much as, say, a guy like Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota. So Isaac Okoro right now, the best element to his game is his finishing. It always has been, always will be on the offensive end. And he's in a system right now that probably doesn't allow him to do that as much as he would like to. You get him into Washington. If you do keep Porzingis, you use Porzingis as your stretch 5. I think it's possible Okoro could find a little bit more value in some 4-out and 5-out sets compared to what he is running in Cleveland right now. And then Cedi Osman, he's in here to make the money work. He would probably get routed to a 3rd team, I would guess, in a deal like this. And then 4 second-round picks. Again, they're trying to sweeten this deal on top of Okoro, Cedi Osman. In my opinion, this is the least likely offer to get accepted here. But I do understand how some GMs, especially someone like Tommy Shepard, could value an Isaac Okoro over a 2027 or 2028 first round pick up to this point that we've seen in this video. But still, at the end of the day, for me, I think I would prefer those 2027 or 2028 first round picks over Isaac Okoro, just from what I've seen so far in his tenure in the NBA. Then we get into our next deal, and this is a fun one to talk about. I like talking about the Brooklyn Nets as buyers this year because, a few months ago we were thinking, oh boy, this team might blow it up, and they've been phenomenal. So let's cut off some of the dead weight on this team. Patty Mills, who's out of the rotation completely. Seth Curry, who's really had his minutes dwindled since Jacques Vaughn has taken over as head coach of the team. Seth Curry's down to about 21 minutes a game. It was much higher to start the year. It was much higher last year, where he was averaging nearly 30 minutes a game. It's clear that they want defensive players. They want guys with length, versatility, and I think one really key element here for the Nets, defensive rebounding. As of a few days ago, they were 4th to last in the NBA in defensive rebounding percentage. Kyle Kuzma is a very good defensive rebounder for his position. So this already solves one of the Nets' issues. It also gives you another offensive threat next to Durant. Kyrie, while not sacrificing as much defense, he's got the good length. He's, like I said, able to hit the boards, which is very important for this Nets team. When you're playing Claxton and Durant as your 5-4 combo, a lot of the time it becomes very, very tough to rebound the basketball. I think Kuzma could slide right in, be a starting forward for this team on day one. And I think he gives you a much better matchup into teams like the Cavaliers, who have a lot of length and size. Gives you a better matchup into the 76ers, who, they do have Joel Embiid. But when you look at their bench, they're trying to play George Niang at the 4 a lot of the time. Niang's rather short for the position. He's also somewhat unathletic. Kyle Kuzma could really take advantage of a guy like that in a postseason series. So you have to try and match up what other teams are good at that you're trying to face. And then we get to the two big dogs in the East, the Bucks and the Celtics. I mean, do I need to say more? They've got, omnipotent wings that are able to do pretty much everything on the court. Giannis is one of the best rim runners of all time. Brook Lopez offers a lot of length, size, shot blocking, but can also step out to the 3-point line. Being flexible, I think the Nets would like to put Nick Claxton on Giannis first series. It allows you to put Kuzma on Brook Lopez and not absolutely get bodied on the offensive glass. Brook Lopez historically does not grab a lot of rebounds, but he's very good at getting into rebounding positioning, putting pressure on the rim that way with his height. I think Kuzma could at least mitigate some of that as well. So for the Nets here, Kuzma makes a lot of sense. And for the Wizards, probably would see Patty Mills and Seth Curry both get rerouted somewhere else. I think Dallas would have interest in reacquiring Seth Curry, who they traded away a few years ago. I think he would really help them right now. The team's shooting about 35.5% from 3. They could definitely use an upgrade when it comes to pure shooting. And then you look at the first round pick attached. Notably, it is the second pick in the draft between the Rockets, Nets, and 76ers pick. So you're taking the middle one. The last one of those 3 would go to Utah. The first one goes to Houston. So realistically, Houston will keep their own pick this year. And then whoever finishes the season better between Philly or Brooklyn is whose pick would go to Utah. And then this pick would go to the Washington Wizards. Then on top of this here, you got 2026, 2025 second round picks, just as little sweeteners here. Realistically, what I think would happen is the Wizards would trade Seth Curry for a second round pick and Patty Mills for a second round pick. And you're walking away from this deal with 4 second round picks, a first round pick, and you don't have to worry about losing Kuzma in free agency. Then we get into our final trade here, and this is one that I really like. Out west, back in the Western Conference, Danny Green, Xavier Tillman are the 2 players leaving Memphis, as well as a 2023 first round pick, so this draft, and 2 second round picks, both in this draft as well. So 3 picks in this one draft go out to Washington for Kyle Kuzma. And this gives Tommy Shepard a good deal of flexibility. Danny Green could probably get rerouted. Sources say that he is somewhat close to returning from his ACL injury, which makes this not a must-make move from Memphis. Memphis doesn't have to make this move if they feel confident that Danny Green's going to return and give them at least 15 minutes of decent basketball a night. Now, the issue, though, even before tearing his ACL, it was clear Danny Green was on the back end of his career. He had taken a significant step back his final year in Philadelphia. And Xavier Tillman's not enough of a sweetener for me if I'm Washington to really consider this deal super strongly either. So Danny Green, Xavier Tillman, I just think if Memphis were to make this move, they're getting significantly better, even if they're risking losing Kyle Kuzma this season, which is really the way that I'm planning this, right? Kuzma's going to want a big contract. The Grizzlies look at this as a rental. They're going to take Kuzma this season. It gives them a little bit of time to continue to further the development of Santi Aldama, David Roddy, Jake LaRavia. And this 1 year is all that the Memphis Grizzlies need, in my opinion. They do a very good job with player development. They know how to get their players to be successful. They put them in at the right time. Taylor Jenkins is one of the best coaches in the NBA, honestly, when it comes to utilization of players. So I think Kuzma comes in for a year. It helps kind of hide the David Roddy, Jake LaRavia, Santi Aldama minutes come postseason time, which is really all the Grizzlies need it for this season. Going into next year, those guys will have a little bit more time under their belt. They're going to have a little bit more development under their belt. They don't need Kyle Kuzma next season, but I think to be really competitive in the West and potentially make it to the NBA Finals this year, I do think that they need a Kyle Kuzma who would be a really good fit next to Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, and you also have Brandon Clark as well. So you're kind of 3 or 4, front court players that you'd have would be Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, Kyle Kuzma, and they're all rather flexible and versatile. The only one I would say who isn't is Steven Adams, who you know what he's going to give you though. Big time screener. He's going to rebound the heck out of the basketball. He's going to box guys out, and he's always in the right position defensively. He's a good positional defender, even with, maybe not the best athleticism in the NBA. And then for the Wizards, you're doing this for draft pick compensation. So I think these are the 5 teams that I could see trading right now for Kyle Kuzma. I wouldn't be shocked if there is a dark horse team that I did not mention in this video. Kuzma is going to have a pretty good deal of interest this trade deadline. I think he's one of the most important players to mention. And I think it's very, very likely that he does end up getting dealt. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Again, check out some of those trade guides. If you're a Wizards fan, I really recommend that one. Thanks again so much for watching. We'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.